Hey everybody, welcome back to the ECG of the day. My name is Reed, and don't forget to download the PDF of this document down in the description below so you can follow along. And yeah, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content. And so let's jump into it. This is a kind of a fun, interesting rhythm here. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the forest. And so maybe pick a lead. I'll start maybe here at V1. And so you can see we've kind of got what seems to be like a borderline wide complex QRS kind of right on the edge of our upper limit of normal. And so you see it's a pretty regular rhythm, right? It's kind of tagging along at a pretty regular rate. You see you've got this kind of early beat. It kind of looks a little bizarre. And then you see that our rhythm resumes and stays in normal fashion for the rest of the time. Seems like it, just when I eyeball it, it could be maybe wide. If we measure the duration of the QRS, let me find, like right here in AVF, if I measure the duration, you see the QRS starts right on the solid line, and it ends just after the third line. So sure, we can say that the QRS here is like 140 milliseconds. So we've got a wide complex rhythm, but I notice that there seems to be P waves in front of every QRS complex. So there must be some type of bundle branch block aberrancy. Let's figure out what the rate is real quick before we proceed. Here's a QRS that lands on solid line. So we've got 300, 150, 100, and just after that 100 line, so maybe 95 beats per minute. Okay. So we've got a wide complex rhythm at 95 beats per minute with some P waves in front of it. Let's evaluate those P waves. Those P waves are upright in lead 1, and they're upright in AVF. So it looks to me like a sinus P wave. So we've got a sinus rhythm. How does the AV node handle, right, that sinus beat that comes down? The AV node is going to latch onto that and pause for 120 to 200 milliseconds, wait for my ventricles to fill. And so let's take a look at the PR interval. Here is the beginning of a P wave, beginning of a QRS, and so it looks to be within normal limits. My PR interval here, it looks to be like maybe 180, like 4.5 little boxes, milliseconds, which is normal. And if you scan through, every P wave has a QRS, and every P wave conducts to the QRS in the same fashion. So we've got a normal AV node function. Let's take a look at the QRS itself now. We said the QRS was wide, right? We said it was 140 milliseconds. Well, why would it be wide? Well, we know the AV node is what is conducting it down into the ventricle, so there must be some type of bundle branch block. And the first thing that I noticed is that in the lateral lead, especially here in lead 1, you see this. You've got this R, and then it kind of starts to come down, but then it comes back up. Look at that. It comes. It's like kind of a little double hump. It's kind of like a little R prime, right? It's got late forces towards the lateral leads. You can see that here. I've kind of got this R prime a little bit. And so you've also got these deep S waves in V1. And so, it seems to be most consistent with a left bundle branch block. That might explain a little bit of why conduction is slowed throughout the left side, and we're getting these R prime signals, these late positive forces in the lateral lead, which are leads 1 and here in AVL 2. Okay. And the last thing we'll do real quick is we'll check this QT interval. And so if you look, you can see that if I go in between two R waves, it seems like that T wave is terminated about kind of near that midway point, right? Nothing that's crazy standing out to me. And you can always adjust it for the rate. So now we need to look for scary things, pathological Q waves, which are previous MIs, and ST and T wave elevations or depressions, which are current MIs. And I think what probably is going to stand out to you the most, stands out to me, is these monstrous ST segment elevations and hyperacute T waves that are predominantly here V2, V3. I mean, here's my baseline, and look at the size of that ST segment elevation. Baseline, ST segment, baseline, ST segment. So we've got massive and a little bit of here in V4, but mostly massive ST elevation in those leads. Okay. And so what does that make you think of? Well, what supplies kind of the anterior wall of the myocardium? Well, we think really of the left anterior descending. So this person did have a left anterior descending occlusion kind of right at kind of the bifurcation of the LAD and the diagonal branch off of the LAD. So it wasn't like a proximal LAD occlusion, but it was kind of at one of the more distal branches, which explains why it's maybe a little bit more focal here, V2, V3. And so now we just need to define this early beat, right? It's a wide, complex beat. You can see it's a wide, complex beat that occurs here. So it's wide. It doesn't look anything like the normal QRS. You can actually see there appears to be a P wave right in front of it that looks just like the normal P wave. So that is a P wave, but look how close that P wave is to that QRS. There's no way. Normally the P wave takes time to get to the QRS, but there isn't time for that P wave to get to the QRS. So this is a premature ventricular contraction that occurs right before that P wave can conduct to the QRS. And so let's put this all together. What do we have? We've got a sinus rhythm at a rate of 95 beats per minute. We have what we would think is somewhat of a left bundle branch block. And I think that left bundle branch block, it might be best explained potentially by this ST segment elevation that we have in the anterior leads, right? V2 and V3. We know that the left bundle does, have somewhat of a supply, vascular supply from the left anterior descending. And so maybe this is, superimposed, disease where you kind of take out a little bit of the left bundle, right? Because this isn't like a incredibly wide, complex left bundle branch block. It just barely meets the criteria for the duration. So you never know. Maybe, that LAD occlusion took out a little bit of the left bundle, but maybe not, right? We don't have a previous ECG for this patient, but I hope this video helps you kind of understand what's going on. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment. And yeah, thanks so much for watching the channel. We'll see you on the next ECG video. Take care.